When people in wheelchairs get a license, what's the height? This post is confusing to me because I've never been physically measured or weighed at the DMV, the place you get your license in America. They just ask you. So yeah, a person in a wheelchair would know their height from being measured before they go in. If OP is from somewhere where you have to be measured on the spot, I would guess there's an exception for a person with a disability that would make that measure awkward or dangerous. You measure from feet to head. Do you just lay on the floor? Does your country not have tables? Do they actually ask your height and weight for your licenses in USA? Seems a bit strange to me. Your weight can change a lot over time, so what happens if you're no longer that yoked? Before 1 year, babies are measured laying down. I presume adults could be measured this way too. It would be on an exam table or bed, certainly not on the floor. The DMV doesn't check your height. You just tell them, so it doesn't matter if you're in a wheelchair or not, as long as you already know how tall you are. I can answer this one as a former DMV height and weight specialist, DMV HWS. So back in the 80s, basically we would just dump them out of the chair onto the floor and then stretch them out and measure using just a normal tape measure, but since the ADA passed, thankfully it's a lot more humane, so now for people in wheelchairs we have them get on a table. It's like a massage table and go head to toe, but sometimes people can't get out of the chair, so for that we have a special measuring tape for handicapped people. For weight we just take them out of the chair and put them on a scale. Think of like a scale at the grocery deli, but if they can't get out of the chair, we're allowed to let them stay in the chair and subtract the weight before we wrap them up and put the receipt on them. They can stand. Well, for starters, that's not universally true of everyone in a wheelchair. I'm a double below knee amputee. My official height is with prosthetic legs on. Before losing legs, I was 5 feet 10.5 inches. When being fitted for legs, I asked to be 6 foot even. Done. The bigger question is, what is the height of a person who had bilateral amputation of the lower extremities? If you're 6 feet tall, you're 6 feet tall. In a wheelchair or on your feet. I don't even use a wheelchair and no one measured me for my license. They asked my height, I told them, and we moved on. They take their word for it. They ask your height on a form and put it on your license. End of story. Most people know their standing height, even if they are in a wheelchair. I've never heard of a DMV in the US measuring height at the DL office. Doctors' offices have a way to measure your standing height. I can remember them holding up my grandma on both sides against a type of ruler on the wall, the same ones where kids stand to see how much they've grown since the last visit. In my country, they don't measure, don't ask, and don't put such infos in license. Not sure where you live, but getting a driver's license, they ask your height. I've never been measured for a license. Have you? Height? For driving? In the UK, we use age. How fascinating. Well, I guess they'll just have to measure their coolness instead of their height now. I was confused by this post because I've never been measured for anything, never mind my driving license. In my experience, the number doesn't have to be super accurate. My uncle went to get his passport renewed and was asked if he was still 2 meters tall. He took off his prosthetic legs and said, well, you tell me. They just went with the length he had before he lost his legs. He doesn't use his prosthetics anymore because they hurt his stumps a lot, so now he's 1.54 meters tall. I don't think he's put that in his passport either.